thing that's driving gold, the relationship between gold and the dollar, is fear abroad of Donald Trump getting in and the uncertainty that that's likely to create. So we're not going to stick just to fiat. What we will do is we will also accumulate monetary metals. And, part of the answer probably is that the Russian gold mines can't get the stuff out of the ground fast enough in order to satisfy the Reserve Bank's demand for gold.
Bond prices are not growing up, down, and yields going up because investors expect Trump to win. It's because they expect somebody to win. It doesn't matter who wins. And I think that's the same thing with gold. Gold again today hit a new all-time record high.
The banks collapsed and the insurance companies collapsed and all of these things happened. So just take the CBDC. That won't ever happen again. The Federal Reserve can never go bankrupt. And, take the CBDC, will make you whole.
In today's weekly recap, 3 financial experts, Andy Schectman, Peter Schiff, and Alasdair Macleod, discuss the latest developments in gold and silver. We watched hours of footage to bring you the best clips. They break down recent price movements, market volatility, and global events shaping the metals markets, so you can stay updated on what matters most for gold and silver, all in just a few minutes. But first, smash the subscribe button, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you do not miss out our recaps. Enjoy the episode.
Almost at 2,800. I said on my Friday podcast that I expected gold to hit a record high by Monday, and it took until Tuesday. I don't think we made a record high, although we might have. We might have made one overnight, I forget. But we certainly, just exploded to a record high tonight. Now, what's not at a record high is the mining stocks. Because of that big drop they had last week on the insignificant Newmont miss, which I've already discussed at length. But the GDX, which is the major index of gold mining stocks, still has to rise 5%, more than that, from here to get back to last week's high, even though gold today is higher than it was at any point last week. That was a huge shakeout. Probably a lot of people that got into gold stocks unfortunately got shaken out, and they're going to miss this huge bull market. I mean, the gold stocks will make new highs soon, and they're a great buy. I mean, as good a buy is on gold and silver, and I was stressing that again on the last podcast. In fact, silver is back above 34 again. It's almost 34.50. Still haven't taken out 35. We got close last week, and so silver had a bit of a bigger pullback than gold. And so while gold made a new high, record high, silver hasn't taken out last week's high yet, but it probably will. My guess would be silver will take out $35 this week. Maybe it'll take it out by a big number. And I think the rally would actually be bigger based on this weak economic data if the markets didn't expect Trump to win, because weak data is actually good for gold because it leads to bigger deficits and rising inflation. But the gold stocks are the buys. Again, I would encourage people to be buying these stocks if you are a risk taker. I mean, if you're a very conservative investor, if you can't afford to lose money, then gold mining stocks are not for you. But if you're willing to take a risk, I can't think of a better risk-reward situation out there than the mining stocks. But where I think Bitcoin has had an impact is in the mining stocks, because there it's a whole different group of investors. The people who are buying gold mining stocks are very different than who's buying physical gold, right? None of the central banks that are buying physical gold are buying mining stocks. Now, they probably should. In fact, that would be smart for them to do that, because if they bought some of these mining stocks, they would own all the gold that's in the ground. And then when those companies mine it, they wouldn't sell it. They would just bring the gold out and just put it in their vaults, right? That would be the smart play for a foreign central bank, right? Instead of China buying up a lot of gold, they should just buy up a lot of gold mining companies, and they'd end up with a lot more gold for a lot less money. But they're not doing that right now. So, but the people who normally would be buying gold stocks are buying Bitcoin ETFs or MicroStrategy instead. So that's where I think you've seen the impact. It's not on the price of gold. It's on the mining stocks. That's one of the reasons that they are so cheap, is because the investors who would otherwise be buying these stocks are not buying them.
And here's Alasdair Macleod's take on the key factors driving gold and silver prices moving forward.
Well, the first thing, there's absolutely nothing on the money front. They were saying basically there were two things that perhaps we were looking for. One was a trade settlement currency of some sort. Now that has been effectively ruled out. And that's realistic because you have to come up with something which is better than the dollar, which you're replacing. Otherwise, people won't use it. It's as simple as that. And that really needs you to have something which is gold backed. And I'm not sure that that would ever make the cut with with the existing BRICS membership, particularly with India being very much against it.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. But also, while we're talking about currencies, the overall political background was one of extreme nervousness on two levels. Firstly, with China and Russia concerned about not provoking America unnecessarily. America, from China's point of view, she's always had the strategy of let your opponent make all the mistakes. And the Russians have been doing this brilliantly as far as the Chinese are concerned. So, just let them carry on making the mistakes. Don't suddenly start to get aggressive and get them to sort of suddenly wake up and think, hold on, we've got a better way of dealing with this. So that's on that level. The other level of nervousness were amongst BRICS nations, the other nations that attended who are looking to join. And their nervousness is that America, could well boomerang back on their trade. Or, if they owed dollars, and most of them owed dollars big time, which, maybe to the IMF. But I mean, the thing is that the IMF is controlled by the Americans. The Americans can call in the shots. So, you don't want to upset your bank manager, as it were. And on top of that, of course, those Americans are not above creating regime change in foreign nations. So, there's a lot of nervousness about how this would be approached. So you can see that while some people are getting quite excited about the whole thing, they're beginning to see a bigger picture and thinking is immediately going to happen. No, this is something which, as far as China and Russia are concerned, is likely to take some time. They're going to respond to events, not create them. The other thing which is very interesting, so that deals with the money side. They are continuing to work, incidentally, on having a sort of SWIFT alternatives and all the bells and whistles that are required for that, and the ability for banks to settle in currencies with each other without using the dollar. Still a work in progress, etc. So that's all rather boring. The other thing, which I don't think has been really noted, is that they have created a new class of membership, which they now call partner status. We might call it association, an associate member of BRICS, but this is, they call it partner, which is exactly the same thing. It means that all these new countries can gradually sort of, assimilate themselves into a sort of common BRICS approach, if you like, to trade. And it's a huge, great free trade area is really what it boils down to. Importantly, the nations which we haven't had an official announcement so far as I can see, but there was a list leaked. And they're talking about Indonesia, huge country in terms of population and GDP, talking about Malaysia, they're talking about Thailand, and they're talking about Vietnam. So, that the whole, well, not the whole of, but the majority of the people in Southeast Asia, particularly with, let's say, ethnic links into China, will be joining in partnerships, in partner status. Other ones which are interesting are Turkey, which is already, as we know, a member of NATO. They're going to have to take a decision at some stage. I think they have actually taken the decision to to basically refocus their future into the Turkic nations in Central Asia. So there's that one. And another interesting one is Nigeria, which again is a very large economy with large oil reserves and all the rest of it. There are a few minor ones in there, like Uganda, for example, which it's sort of going to be a communications hub into the Congo, so far as I can see. So what we're now looking at, I think, if you include these partner nations, we're going to be looking at something like almost 70% of the global population in BRICS.
It's huge.
And on a purchasing power parity, we're going to be looking well over 50% of global GDP.
In today's news recap, Bitcoin and gold both win if Trump secures election, says JP Morgan. Analysts at the top bank think traders are feeling uncertain about the market, and this could further benefit Bitcoin. Gold is rising, and so is Bitcoin. And both are poised to continue seeing gains in the weeks to come, thanks to geopolitical uncertainty, worries over the strength of the dollar, and the upcoming U.S. election, according to JP Morgan analysts. In a Thursday report, analysts at the bank said that a debasement trade is coming, which could further drive demand for both gold and Bitcoin and help push up prices. A Donald Trump victory next week in the U.S. presidential election increases the likelihood of such a trade, JP Morgan analysts said. A debasement trade is when traders try to hedge against weakening currencies, geopolitical headwinds, and government deficits. Gold is typically a good insurance policy against weakened fiat money. Top asset manager BlackRock has also touted Bitcoin's so-called digital gold as another asset to invest in during times of uncertainty. Rising geopolitical tensions and the coming U.S. election are likely to reinforce what some investors call the debasement trade, thus favoring both gold and Bitcoin. The report read, Republican nominee Donald Trump not only has come out as the crypto-friendly candidate in the race, but his policy to increase tariffs could lead to more inflation and geopolitical tensions. The report noted, the real estate mogul said he wants all future Bitcoin to be mined in the U.S. and also launched a decentralized finance DeFi project running on Ethereum that plans to release its own stablecoin, Decrypt previously reported. Gold has this year hit new highs and Bitcoin is now just 5% off, touching its March all-time high. The biggest digital coin is trading for $70,114. CoinGecko data shows after nearly setting a new all-time high on Tuesday. Now we'll show you more clips, but first smash the subscribe button and hit the like button as more people need to know this. Let's get back into the episode.
Deposits, they covered everything that was. But you got to remember, this is a tiny bank. If they only have 7 million in uninsured deposits, this is a small rural bank. I mean, you could have a bank, a big bank that has many accounts with large amounts in it that are uninsured, and those numbers would be in spades, and they only are giving 3.5 million of coverage here. That 50% should say we're only covering 3.5 million of the 7, and it would resonate a lot more with people, I think.
And Michael Guadano asks, Andy, any relevant news from the BRICS conference?
What I think they're trying to do right now is show the world they got their act in order. You see and again, it's like marketing to the West, in my opinion. There hasn't been a lot of news out yet. On Thursday, they'll start making more announcements, which is the last day. But the three things that stuck out to me was they're showing that they have, that the countries involved are putting aside their differences. It was announced that Saudi Arabia and Iran would take part in joint naval exercises. This is Sunni and Shiite who've hated each other. You remember a year ago, the Chinese, the adult in the room, brokered a peace deal, even going as far as having embassies in each other's countries, but brokered a peace deal between these two countries that have disliked each other for a long time. But now we're in the BRICS, and it's a cooperative union, and we are putting our differences aside for the common good. And today, Modi and Xi Jinping spoke on the sideline. If you remember, back in South Africa, they did the same thing. where they try to settle their differences of the border dispute. And again, they are saying that that is indeed what they are doing now and putting their differences aside for the greater good. And they want people to see that here you have countries that have been at each other's throats for years, if not longer, decades or even centuries. And now for the common good, they are putting these differences aside. And it's much easier to be cooperative than be in constant conflict. The other thing is that we've talked ad nauseum about Enbridge, and the unit, which will enable these countries to trade with one another over the cross-border payment system of Enbridge with their local currencies. And it will enable these countries to buy things like oil and other commodities with the unit token, which we have been told by Delma Rousseff, the head of the New Development Bank, that, in principle, we've agreed to it. It'll be pegged to gold. But they also have come out, and that's for the big money, the state, and maybe the commercial banks on behalf of the state. But they have issued something called BRICS Pay, which is kind of like, according to Vince Lancy, I think he gave a great analogy of it, a monetary passport, which is that any one of the BRICS member countries can seamlessly purchase goods and services in any BRICS country using BRICS Pay. It seamlessly and immediately converts just using your BRICS Pay card. So they're basically saying we have covered our settlement currency. We've talked a lot about Enbridge, that we're putting our differences aside, that we are getting our house in order, and we are all on the same page. And now we have the ability for the consumer to trade within this ecosystem wherever they are within the BRICS union. So they're showing cooperation. They are showing the ability to not use the dollar to settle on a large scale and bring it all the way down to a retail level. Those are the things that I've taken away so far. And there hasn't been a lot of news that has come out yet, other than, I think it's a big deal that you see these countries trying to mend fences. In particular, always, India and China don't like each other, and Saudi Arabia and Iran hate each other. Well, those are the two news stories they came out with. And maybe there's some legitimacy to it. Maybe it's marketing. I don't know. But if indeed this is what they are accomplishing, it's a huge deal. If for the greater good, you get these countries as allies, let's just forget about it. I don't remember what we were fighting for, kind of thing. It's a huge deal. It is a trend in motion, and there'll be more clarity by the end. By Friday, there ought to be a lot of stuff to talk about. But as of right now, it's just 2 days in. That's what I've taken away so far.
Wanted to give you a chance to let everyone know.
What do you think of today's show? Do you agree with the insights shared by Andy Schectman, Alasdair Macleod, and Peter Schiff on the forces shaping the future of gold and silver? Each expert provided valuable perspectives, from Andy's focus on the safety of precious metals amid economic uncertainty to Alasdair's analysis of shifting global currencies and Peter's warning about inflation and market instability. Together, they make a compelling case for paying close attention to the precious metals market as we face financial and geopolitical changes ahead. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe if you have not yet done so, and check this video right here because you'll love it. I'll see you on the other side.